Yeah, how much cognitively are we not set up, or maybe we are, to handle how a lot of information comes at us today in terms of the TikTok, the reels, the short, quick bursts of things?
Yeah, you definitely see those things specifically being engineered to act on those sort of brain dopamine reward systems that we have, things that are being engineered to be as addictive as possible and as rewarding as possible. Um, I mean,
Like, does it limit ones if somebody is, let's say, on a TikTok for 3 hours? I don't know even what kids are. Is 3 hours like a real thing?
oh,
Probably.
Probably,
I
yeah,
think there's
easily.
a lot
Oh
more than
yeah,
that.
Easily. Like, how much is that hindering their brain in terms of being able to retain information, build a skill?
think
Like,
critically.
yeah, think critically. Is it just working in opposite pathways? You're putting out dopamine in ways that you're getting rewards for things that you probably shouldn't be getting rewarded for.
Yeah, so I would be cautiously optimistic about all this stuff. What you see is people have been making the same arguments for thousands of years. You know, before TikTok, it was the internet, and before the internet, it was TV, and before that,
Mm.
it was radio, and before that, it was the written word.
Yeah, good
Like
point. Good point.
I don't know if it was Socrates or Plato, but they were like
Who
very anti
who's
books.
who's the guy that first wrote the Bible? He like got in trouble for doing that, so it's like probably
Yeah.
forever.
Yeah, people thought that once you can start writing words down, people wouldn't have to use their brains anymore because they don't have to remember everything. It's like, I guess, but what you really see is that it's the concept of offloading. So it's not that you don't have to use your brain anymore, but you can use your brain for other things because you don't have to remember everything all the time. You don't have to the fact that you can offload things into a savable written medium or whatever, it sort of frees your brain up for other things. And you could argue maybe we're getting to the point where our brains don't have enough like that they need to do for survival
Right.
anymore. Um, but I don't think that's inherently a bad thing. And when people talk about stuff like TikTok, or TV or whatever it is, or video games, rotting kids' brains or whatever, it's like we don't really see that. And even to the extent that people talk about it ruining our attention spans and things like that, there's not really a lot of good evidence to support that from like a scientific perspective at this point. So again, I would be cautiously optimistic. Our brains are changing for sure, but in like the neuroplastic sense, right? The way that they're supposed to. Our brains are supposed to change to adapt to the demands of whatever our environment is that we're in. Um, so it might seem like scary, that spooky, that our like the way that our brains are working is changing, but it's probably in an adaptive way, and it's probably not much to really be worried about. On the other hand, it's not like when you see babies these days on smartphones years before they can talk, that's the stuff that's a little scary
There's
to me.
something weird about it too. Like, our daughter is 13 months old, and I think it's partly because she sees us on it, so she wants it. But like, if the phone comes out, she's reaching. If she sees the iPad, she's reaching. TV remote, she's reaching, and she grab it. She's mimicking, right? Fingers just going on it, and you're like,
Yeah.
oh, this is scary.
Yeah, I remember when I was in middle school and I was like, man, I can't wait till I'm in high school so I can get a cell phone.
Yeah.
It's like, I think from a building a childhood perspective, maybe it's good to put a little gap because when you're that young, it's like it's such a critical
Hmm.
developmental period, right? And maybe in 20 years from now, they'll have better studies on how that affects people, kids growing up from such an early age. But who knows?